The video you are watching now is the 6th part of our tutorial. This part mainly talks about some common problems and solutions. Okay, let's look at the first question. Is when we import a DXF file, we often find that the controllers, the number of ports in the pixel layout, is different from the number of models in the controller list. Is different. For example, theoretically, there are 2 ports, but only one is displayed here. At this time, we just need to modify a controller model modification. Change the port number to a controller model with more ports. At this time, its port number will increase. Of course, we need at least 2, and up to 8. We can adjust it here. Okay, let's look at the second question. For example, when we play the preview animation, or our program, or after importing it into the controller, we find that the running speed is relatively slow. How to solve this problem? For this kind of unsmooth problem, we usually select the program. We modify the speed in this program. For example, 25 is the fastest. Then we preview it again. At this time, our speed will become much smoother. If the speed is still not enough, we can adjust the magnification here. It can be double, quadruple, or 8 times. Let's see the effect of double speed. The speed is much faster. Let's see the effect of 8 times. It will become faster. So, when we choose this program, to adjust the parameters, and export the program to the controller to read, at this time, the problem of smooth playback can be solved. The third one is that when exporting the file, the exported program, give it to our controller, we do an encryption action. When we decrypt it again, we often encounter the inability to decrypt. At this time, there is a decryption file here. When generating it, here, you need to pay attention. Encrypted and decrypted text must be exported on the same computer. Be sure to remember this step. If it's not the same computer, its algorithm will be inaccurate. There is no way to decrypt it. Even if you know the password, it won't work. Fourthly, when we are adding animations, in this tool, when we add animation, suppose there is a flowing water animation, we will find that there are often frame skips here. It's not smooth. And every time we increase the number, it gets stuck. At this time, we just need to turn on the pause, which is to press the pause button. At this time, we export the program, then its smoothness can solve this problem. Okay, let's look at the fifth problem. The fifth problem is that when we export the program, we always encounter a certain program file. It will prompt that the animation cannot be exported, and we need to delete or select it. We will do this every time. If you don't handle it well, the animation cannot be exported. That is to say, in the newly added program, we didn't select the background effect. For example, when I choose doesn't respond, at this time, we can choose a color or an animation, or a pure color. Something. It must have a negative value, so that it can be exported normally. This is the same. Okay, when we export, and it can be exported smoothly, let's create a new file. If we still can't export it, we just need to delete this file without a program. Delete it. After uploading, we can also, and then we can export it. Let's look at the sixth question. When we are editing a custom animation, when editing, at this time, we need to import an external animation. At this time, it will prompt, you need to shift and box select to apply an animation effect. What's the problem? It means that this effect, we didn't select the area where it was copied, or the grid area. We just need to hold down the shift key to select a box. Select a certain area. Let's operate again. At this time, we can select an effect. Okay, let's choose an effect and confirm. Then it has already made this to create a change effect. Okay, let's take a look. The seventh question. When we manually operate this effect, here, we accidentally select the invalid color palette. What problem will happen at this time? When we are discussing, there will only be a single color effect. It can't have a color transition value, negative value. Then we just need to cancel this one. Let's take a look again. Select this thing to confirm. At this time, we can see the color. When we select the invalid one, see, there is only one. After we cancel it, its color will become richer. We should pay special attention to this option. Eighth, when using our controller software, sometimes we can't import the XF files, or create a new, or a dot matrix arrangement. What is the reason for this? It's because our software has already created a controller at this time, and there is already a layout. It cannot import the XF files and dot matrix layout. We need to create a new controller. and then select the signal. At this time, we can import the XF. And also do a dot matrix layout. Separate settings. 9th, sometimes. When we export the program we have made, our LED light source cannot be turned on. The test effect is fine when it is connected to our program. After importing it, our lights can't be lit. At this time, we need to check the settings of the LED file we exported, whether we have set the brightness adjustment or default to 0. Okay, we need to set it to the maximum, 25, and then after a setting, and re-export the program to our controller. The 10 point is, when exporting the program, sometimes we find that the RGB sequence of our LED light source is incorrect, that is, the color sequence is wrong. At this time, there are generally two possibilities. One is that we selected the wrong chip model. The other one is, when we select the chip model, there is an RGB sequence value here that is wrong. When the controller reads this program, it will output. The RGB sequence will be wrong. Another one is, when we choose an RGBW chip, we must pay attention Remember to turn on this channel. If it's not turned on, the W channel will not be displayed, and it won't control the white light either. Then in this RGBW mode, select the corresponding parameter to achieve RGBW control. The 12th point, when we create a new model, we must pay attention. All our models can support dynamic light boxes and full color pixel points. At this time, if you want a dynamic light box, we must select this. The option of dynamic light box. After opening there will be a light box here. Only when this light box appears, as state, can we enter programming mode of the dynamic light box. 13th, sometimes in our personalized layout, when we import pictures, we find that the speed of importing images is very slow when running. At this time, we need to pay attention to this attribute, which is the pixel value of the image. Should not be too high. It must be within 1 or 2 megabytes. In this way, when our software is running, the speed will be relatively fast.